So I was watching the Academy Awards last year, and I thought to myself, you know what America really needs is another televised award show for actors. I mean, we don't do enough to publicly acknowledge the importance of actors. We have the Academy Awards, the Golden Globe Awards, the Screen Actors Guild Awards, the Critics' Choice Awards. We don't do enough to show people how important actors are. I'm not here to bag on actors, folks. I like movies as much as anybody else, but teachers get no respect. And I think we need to celebrate teachers. Teachers make a difference. We're in a room filled with a lot of wonderful teachers. I feel blessed to have spent this weekend with a great teacher in Pete Vargas. Let's all please give it up for Pete for hosting this event. I look forward to working with Pete and his team and a lot of the people in this room. I haven't gotten to know everybody in this room, so a lot of you are wondering, who is this guy? Well, I am Danny, a teacher of many ages, cultures, shapes, and sizes. I've actually taught all age levels, from preschoolers all the way up to rocket scientists. I can make that claim because I used to teach English as a second language to engineering students at the University of Southern California. I became a teacher because of the movie Stand and Deliver. How many of you ever saw the movie Stand and Deliver? If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's the true story of Jaime Escalante going to Garfield High School in East Los Angeles to teach AP Calculus. So I said, I'm going to be Jaime Escalante. So I was originally hired to teach 12th grade social studies in Compton, California. It's in inner city of South Central Los Angeles. And they switched me from working with high school students to middle school students to upper elementary to lower elementary to pretty soon, instead of preparing students for college, I was coming home with snot marks on my kneecaps every single day. And what I learned is what works with older students does not necessarily work with younger students. But what works with younger students works with all age levels. I've learned so much from my students. I've learned so much from all of my teachers over the years. How many of you ever had a teacher that made a huge difference in your life? I love to celebrate the teachers in my life, and I don't have enough time to talk about all of them, but a couple that had a huge impact on my life began with my 8th grade English teacher, Mrs. Witt. Mrs. Witt was 183 years old. She was about 4 feet tall. Her teeth reminded you of summer. Some are here, some are there. She was old school. She believed the English language should be memorized and diagrammed mathematically. She used to waddle around with a stopwatch and go, Brassell, 6 tenses of the verb to be, go! Present tense, I am, you are, he, she, it is, we are, you are, there. She's like, not good. I learned how to yawn without opening my mouth in her classroom because she carried a meter stick. And if she caught you yawn, she'd smack you across the face. If you said you were going to tell anybody, she'd say, who's going to believe you? I'm a sweet little old lady. She freaked us out. Every single year, she gave her top student her coveted penny. It was a penny, man. And we all wanted it. Out of 325 8th graders, I took second. I had 98.7%. Sarah Davidson had a 99.2%. She was a nerd. And Mrs. Witt looked at me and she said, never settle for second best, Brassell. Dang, that woman was tough. But thank goodness I had Mrs. Witt. I could have never passed Miss McLean's class if I had not had Mrs. Witt. Miss McLean was my 11th grade English teacher. In her 25 years of teaching, she had never had a student score higher than a 95% on her final exam. Now, I had a solid B in her classroom, and my buddy and I were calculating grades one day. I calculated in order to move up from a B to an A, I was going to have to score 97% on her final exam. I also calculated I could get a 0 and maintain my B. And being the student that always liked to challenge himself, I turned to my buddy and said, I guess I got a B. She overheard that. She leaned in, she's like, this is a moment, Daniel. This is a moment that determines the course of your entire future. She guilted me into studying for this exam for the next 3 weeks, and I scored a 96%. The highest grade ever in her class. And she gave me the B. The woman never let me get away with anything. I would do a paper, quickly turn it in. She wouldn't even look at it. She'd say, how dare you, Daniel? How dare you put your name on this? She was a huge New York Yankees fan. She liked to remind me in his last season, Joe DiMaggio was playing in a meaningless game. The Yankees already clinched the pennant. They were up a run. DiMaggio hits a single, tries to stretch it into a double, slides head first into second base, almost kills himself. A rookie at the end of the inning is like, what were you thinking, Joe? DiMaggio looked at the rookie and said, I was thinking some kid, this might be his first time at Yankee Stadium. I want them to know what kind of player I am. Miss McLean looked at me and she said, Daniel, someday you're going to meet your maker, and it ain't going to be a very good day. So you need to make your worst day your best day by never giving anything less than your best effort. It's a lesson that served me when I became a teacher. I had so many wonderful students that I worked with. I had one boy, Jonathan. Jonathan's one of the most gifted and talented students I ever taught. And one day I was having a conference with his mother, a single mother, raising him and his older sister, working 3 jobs. And she looked at me and she said, Miss Brassell, Jonathan looks at you like a father. If you were his daddy, what would you recommend that we do? And I looked at her and I said, move. Because my district did not have a gifted and talented program. And her son was gifted and talented. And I knew if her son stayed at this school, he was getting Miss Hampton next year, and she was going to destroy this beautiful young man. Because Miss Hampton was a direct descendant of Satan. And I realized that that's what I truly believed. I needed to resign, which I did that day. I finished out the rest of the year, but that was it for me in the classroom. And I still consider that my biggest failure in life. And I went into a deep depression over it for several months. Took a position at a university, started training teachers, and finally one of my best teachers, my mom, she gave me a pep talk because she's a peppy person. She said, don't you see, Danny, don't you see? Now your job is to pump up other people so they don't quit teaching. You're going to affect a lot more people this way. That's why I love doing what I do. You know, I would love to be your teacher, but I'm not going to stand here and say, please go to DannyBrassell.com so I can be your teacher. I'm going to stand here and say, please go to Danny Brassell so I can be your teacher. Remember, education is valuable. It's execution, though, that's priceless. Thanks for joining me.